So next up we have Dr. Ruth McMenamin and PPI contributor Michael Griffin. So Ruth is also a PPI catalyst, and she's a lecturer in speech and language therapy here in NUI Galway, and another person who's a total fountain of knowledge on PPI. So I'll let you get started here.
Okay. So Michael and I are delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you today about our work together around aphasia and PPI. I suppose it's clear when you look at the statistics, the incidence and the prevalence about stroke and aphasia to see why research in this area is needed. So approximately 10,000 new people each year in Ireland will experience a stroke, and up to a third of those people will experience aphasia. And they are the new people each year. So that doesn't take account of all of the people who are already living in our community, living with aphasia after a stroke. And there is very little public awareness of aphasia. Many of you here probably may never even have heard of it. There's much more awareness of things like Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, etc. So aphasia is an acquired language disorder. It's primarily caused by stroke. It affects the person's ability to get the words they want to talk, to understand what you're saying to them, to read, to write, to spell, to count. And if you think even of all of the conversations that you've had this morning with people in your home, with people when you've come here, and you had no effort, you didn't even think about those conversations, but think about trying to have those conversations with aphasia, with a difficulty getting the words you want to make the sentences that you need to articulate or get your messages across. So it's very much an invisible communication disability. And as I've said to you, there's very poor awareness of it in the public. There's been so much work, fantastic work, around PPI. And it's largely supported by healthcare professionals, by researchers, by academics, by policymakers, by members of the public, by patients. But when you look at the PPI literature, there's definite patterns about who's been included in PPI work and who's not been included. And the hard to reach and marginalised groups, so people like those people with aphasia, are still being excluded. And why are people with aphasia excluded from research? It's really because of the nature of the communication disability. It's hard for members of research teams to talk to people with aphasia and ask them their opinions and get the opinions communicated in a way that's accessible. It takes more work, it takes more time, it takes more effort. And so, I really feel very passionate about the fact that it is our responsibility to make that effort and create that space and co-create new learning to involve people with aphasia and other marginalised groups in research. Because at the moment, the healthcare experiences of people with aphasia, for example, compared to the rest of the stroke population, so other stroke survivors who don't have aphasia, the people with aphasia's experiences are largely unknown. And we need to involve people to hear those voices, and it's our responsibility to do that. This is a picture of Josie. Josie had a stroke and had aphasia. She loved nothing more than to sit with her cup of tea and tell you her ideas and her thoughts. But it took time, it took effort, but it's important that her voice, like so many other voices of people with aphasia, are included in what we're doing. So Michael and I and other people with aphasia in the Galway region, and speech and language therapists and speech and language therapy students students from here in NUIG and some of our graduates were involved in a study looking at the Conversation Partner Programme. And we set up the Conversation Partner Programme here in NUIG in 2005-2006. And basically what it involves is people like Michael, who have trained to be trainers for our students, coming in and working with me to train our students on good communication. What is good communication? And then those students go out and visit people in the Galway region for 12 weeks, and they have conversations, and they learn about the lived experience of aphasia. And it's a fantastic opportunity for the students to bring theory to practice. It's an opportunity for the people with aphasia to have conversations with new and unfamiliar people, and also to increase that feeling of social connectedness, because we know from the literature that post-stroke people with aphasia are at much higher risk of low mood and depression compared to other people without aphasia. And that's because of the difficulty with connectedness, with communication, with interaction. So they have an opportunity to share new ideas and learning with the students. And this programme has been running successfully now for over a decade. And it was funded by a fantastic group here, the Community Knowledge Initiative, led by Dr. Lorraine McElrath here in NUIG. And they provided the seed funding to set up this programme. So the research involved the evaluation of that programme with the groups that I've mentioned, and the people with aphasia were involved as co-researchers. And what do I mean by that? That means that together in the research, we made decisions about the project development and design. We agreed the research questions. We generated and we analysed data together across the research phases. And we also identified what were our findings, and we agreed our findings, and we prioritised our findings. And then we co-created ways to share our findings. And that's what PPI is. That's where we're talking about this decision-making power within the research process. So the co-researchers with aphasia were involved in all phases of the research cycle. And in this picture, you can see some of the co-researchers deciding here around what were the best ways to present research questions. So we used participatory learning and action research as our methodological approach. And the ethos and the principles of participatory learning and action research are all founded around things like democracy, life enhancement, empowerment. So these were the underlying principles which resonate very strongly with public and patient involvement in terms of collaboration, partnership, co-design, all of these things. So you can see here in some of the pictures, I don't know how to use this. Is this the point? Oh, yeah. So in this picture here, you see some of the co-researchers with aphasia using different pictures and symbols and sticky notes to generate ideas in response to the research questions. And we didn't exclude anybody based on the severity of their aphasia. So some people in the group had very severe aphasia in terms of they may just have had single word output. Other people were more fluent. But together we broke down the barriers to the communication access, and we created communication access together and found what worked for people in the research process to get their messages across. There were so many ideas that we used a form of thematic analysis, so categorization, to group our ideas together. And here in this picture, you can see some of, in the second phase of the research, some of the co-researchers with aphasia working with some of the speech and language therapists and some of the students, and all sharing knowledge and making decisions around the research table. We made decisions about what were the important criteria in terms of evaluation of the Conversation Partner Programme. And we did this by casting votes using coloured paper clips. So again, we used materials and resources that were flexible, that were easy to use, and that helped people to get their messages across. And we decided about how to use the agreed criteria in practice. And this was around implementation. And can I just say, say that these two, if you like, questions moved way beyond the original research questions. And this is the beauty of public and patient involvement. You don't know what the members of the public or the patients are going to say is important to do in the research process. So it's about being open to that. So thinking about prioritization and thinking about implementation was way beyond our original research questions, but it was fantastic, and we embraced that co-learning together. We decided in phase 3 to bring the data that we had generated in Ireland to the United Kingdom, and we brought our data to London. And here you can see pictures again of the co-researchers with aphasia deciding about what was the important data to bring to London. So again, making the decisions about what was happening in the research process. And here you can see the group in London, which again involved people with aphasia. It involved people who had been trained as conversation partners and speech and language therapists, and myself and my co-facilitator, Adele Tierney, working with the group again to see what resonated with them. So, and we used the same kind of principles using participatory learning and action research. This was a new way of working for me as a researcher and for the co-researchers with aphasia. So it was important to ask people, what was it like to be involved in the research process in this way? And the co-researchers with aphasia had a lot to say about that. So they generated 56 different ideas about what it was like to work together as part of a research team. And you can see here some of the ideas that people came up with. So they said things like, I can't read anymore, I can't write anymore, but I enjoyed the group. Talking with others, saying something, I never had a chance before to say something. There were feelings of equality, of respect, of feeling talked to, of feeling being involved. And all the time, all the way through the research, people were saying, I'm 100% up here. It's just the talk that's difficult. We also use things like symbols and pictures for people to express their involvement. So we invited the co-researchers to bring along symbols to represent for them what it was like to be involved. And Michael, I'm going to show one of yours here, if that's okay. Michael brought this picture, which is a picture of turf stacked on the bog. And the message, Michael, if I remember correctly, was when you're on the bog and you're stacking the turf, it's hard work and it takes time. But if you have a lot of people working together, then it doesn't take as much time and it's a lot more fun. So that was, and there's lots more symbols here. The feather represented, for example, the unexpected things in the research that happened. So moving way beyond the research questions, etc. As a researcher doing PPI, I experienced transformation in this process, and I could talk to you all day about the co-learning that happened in the process of doing this kind of PPI work. But I think I can sum it up by saying to you that doing PPI research is not about the I, it's about the we. And, you know, when I was meeting the group for the first time to do this research project, and I'm a speech and language therapist, I've worked with people with aphasia for over 20 years, I'm an educator here in NUI Galway, I teach students about aphasia. I was really nervous going into that group because I didn't know what kind of communication ability the people in the group would have, and I didn't know how would I be able to help the people get their messages across. And what you learn through PPI is it's not about the I. It wasn't about me making the research process accessible. It was about the we making the research process accessible. It was about us making the decisions. It was about us deciding what was important. And that takes a huge amount of pressure off you as the researcher. So if you're thinking about PPI, I absolutely encourage you to do it. There were transformation experiences for the co-researchers with aphasia. And this again is an example that Michael brought. Michael brought a symbol of a turtle to one of the meetings. And he said, you know, I think the turtle, or the tortoise, wants to be like the hare again. So it was an example of the changes in terms of confidence and, you know, identity that happened through the process. And with that, I'm going to hand you over to Michael.
Hello, thank you, Ruth. Hello, my name is Michael Griffin. I'm happily married to Lena. We have 3 children and 5 grandchildren. I'd had a stroke 10 years ago, just before my 55th birthday. Tomorrow, I got a stroke. The stroke was caused as aphasia. Aphasia affects my ability to talk, read, write and spell. I can understand what you are saying, but I find it hard to get the words. I was co-researcher in a conversation partner study with Ruth. I tell you what that was like for me doing the PPI research. We had a lot to say. We are all strangers in the group. When I meet new people, it's very hard to talk, even one-to-one. In a group, speaking was very difficult. We were all on the same boat, in the same boat. We need time to talk and time to listen. The research gave me experience of talking, speech and conversation. About talk to, not over. After the meetings, I was very tired. I didn't think I had that much to say. The way we worked together, there was teamwork in the group. We had time to make ourselves understood. Ruth and Edad didn't finish what we wanted to say. We had a chance to talk about our experience, the things they used to help us to get our thoughts out. Stickies and pictures were the big help. When you write it down, you can see it. Jog your memory. We saw what other people had to say about the research, speech and language therapists and the students. All the talk was on the stickies on the chart. We used different colours to help you see our own idea on the charts. The first meeting, I didn't know what we'd like. After that, I was looking forward to it. I thought it was a wonderful experience. We had fun as well. Loads of laughter. People were willing to listen and give you more than the chance to speak your mind. People gave you ideas in a group. What did I mean? So helping people, each other to talk. All of us spoke our minds. No interruption at all. That was good. Most people couldn't get the words or read or write anymore after the stroke, but we all felt comfortable in the group. We did a really good job and we're proud of it, our work. The bigger group with the speech and language therapists was very good too. We heard what everybody had to say about aphasia and the conversation partners. The work was important. Work was important to us. We made important decisions in the research. We know what it's like to live with aphasia day in and day out. Ruth and Edel valued our knowledge. We had something important to say. We weren't wasting anybody's time. At the end of the study, I felt elated. I didn't think we had that much to say, but I'm happy that we said it. We always think about what's next. After the stroke, people look differently at you. I'm 100% in the mind, but the talk is difficult. Being involved with the research made us look normal. You walk into a room, you see normal people. We were doing something important. We felt respected. We want everybody to know about the aphasia. We want to make Galway and Ireland aphasia friendly. We want to teach everybody how to talk to people with aphasia. Give them time to talk. Don't interrupt or finish our sentence. We want people to understand what it's like to live with stroke and aphasia. I'm a person who had a stroke, and every day I live with the aphasia. This makes it hard to get the words out. So if I can do it, so can you. Now I'm part of the PPI Ignite group. I talk with a lot of people. It's hard, but I get my ideas out. I had talked with Ruth at the PPI conference, and now I'm talking to you today. Our experience are very important, and people with aphasia want to be included. Being part of the research team works well for us. If you include us and support us, we will have a lot to say. Thank you.